How's it going, YouTube? It's your boy Rob, aka Master Chino. Today, I have a video for you guys. Do all black people think white people are the same? Let's find out. All right. I don't, but what do black people think about white folks? Let's find out. Let's see if we all think alike, or let's see if we don't. But I'm pretty sure they're gonna do white and black, so let's just figure out who, what's up.
I went to a school that was predominantly black when I was growing up, and when I first saw the first white kid, I was like, "What is that?" You know
What? That's crazy. Okay. Do white people and black people think differently about race? Okay. Yeah, they do. That's not even a question. But let's go.
I act differently around people who aren't my race.
I'm trying to do better about that. But not even gonna lie, I agree. I agree with this. I agree. I agree. I do. Most black people have different codes when we can switch up when we get around different races or different people. And then when we get together, we act more of ourselves. But I've gotten to the point where I've gotten a lot better, because I used to just do that to just anybody, because I'm more of an introvert and I don't like talking to folks. So I've gotten better with it, with everybody. But not gonna lie, there's certain people I can't act myself. I can't act the way that I want to, because they're something about them. They funny or they different. So I don't say nothing.
3, 2, 1.
I know white people do the same thing too.
I think the most important thing is just to authentically be yourself, and I don't think being around people who don't.
But not all. It's mainly you just got to get around people who not you think alike, but you're comfortable with, and then you can just be yourself around them.
Look like you should be a reason for you to act any different.
Yeah, for me, I guess it's like within the confines of like the workforce.
What the fuck is he working, man?
Because if you show up to a meeting talking like this, they're like,
yeah,
educated, got it.
Yeah,
they'll
get
use
out
the
of here.
slang to sell the products and to tweet and to get the clicks and stuff. And
Yeah.
so, like, as soon as a worker's there who's authentically from the area and talking like people from the area, it's like, ooh, we don't like that. Because it's always like, well, be yourself.
Okay.
Until you yourself. And then it's like, ooh, I don't like yourself. Unfortunately, until you yourself.
Okay.
And then it's like, oh, I don't like yourself. Unfortunately, in a lot of the areas of work, it's like you almost have to like lie to these people to be like, I'm a robot. I'll like, I love your company. Yeah. It's sick. It's sick. But it's like, you have to do,
It's true though.
Like, I feel like
That's fact.
coaching is one part, but also like there's certain parts in my own community that aren't accepted, that when I'm around different people that look like me, I can express myself differently. Like, I feel like if I talk a little proper, sometimes I get a little slack for it from my side of the family. But when I go out into the world, sometimes I like EDC, I like tech music, I like, you know what I'm saying?
See, for me, I
Yeah,
feel like it has nothing
yeah.
to do with race. It more has to do with just being professional. Like, if I'm at work, then I'm obviously going to be a little more proper, a little bit less slang and all of that, and just more careful with my rhetoric. But I don't think it has to do with race. The only thing I will say is, like, I work in political media, so I'm on camera a lot.
So he has to be politically correct at all times. So he can just shut the fuck up. Okay. Next.
So people already know who I am and what I'm coming with. But that being said, it's like when I'm around other black people, because I'm a Republican, sometimes they tend to be really standoffish with me or think that I don't understand the culture and all this different stuff. So sometimes I have to feel it out like, are these people who are just gonna call me an Uncle Tom? Or are these people like I can actually just keep it all the way real with?
Okay.
So that's the only time I feel like I act different because of race.
You know, I also work in political media, but as a leftist, and I honestly feel like I've definitely benefited from being able to be in spaces where
She
I've been
looked
able
like
to
she
be
a
authentically
leftist.
myself, and I
She
definitely
worked
think that's
over
a
there.
privilege, especially where I grew up is
definitely
just is something that's regularly happening that people have to go through. But personally, I think I've been able to, especially now in a business side and now my new workplace, I feel like I don't have to adapt my language to make people respect me or understand where I'm trying to come from, you know?
At what point is it like, damn, we can't even really have conversations without buttoning up and being like, oh, this is how we have to talk like this because so they'll listen, or regard us as.
But do you
That's
think
just
it's
business.
racial, or do you think that's
I
just...
think I don't know that it's because I'm right. I know where you're going.
You see me, we see
I know.
each
I
other.
think I know exactly where it's going. I don't think it's intrinsically rooted in race, but I think just the way the social genetic makeup of people are. I think just by way of people of specific races speaking a certain way or being perceived a certain way, it tends to be more often than not rooted in race, based off of urban Black Americans.
Yeah.
I think most people have barriers they put up when they get introduced to a new group.
Yeah.
I went on disagree instead of strongly disagree because there have been situations where I get introduced to a group of someone of a different race. And yeah, at first I'm pulled back, but once I get comfortable with them, those walls come down, and then, yeah, that's where my true self comes out.
For me, it really depends because I've been shooting music videos in the hood, so I really need to basically adopt myself to become a Black person. So for me, it's not a problem meeting new races. I always vibe and chill with.
Bro, that's not a Black person, bro. What? That's just, you go to the hood so you fuck with niggas. That don't mean you, that's not a Black person. That's just, that's a, there's different types of Black people, African Americans, whatever you want to call it. But there's niggas and then there's Black folks. And if you go to the hood, you most of the time you gonna find yourself a nigga. You ain't gonna find yourself a Black person most of the time. But God, this dude.
People.
Do you think adapting yourself to those different ethnicities is something that's required to
Perform your
foster
job?
a successful relationship?
I would say it's really more for your survival because, if you are the only white guy on set and there's people with guns and stuff, and you just really need to fit in and just be chill
as not
with it.
seen.
Mm-hmm. You're from the Ukraine, right? Do you feel not having grown up with American culture as a whole, and then especially not growing up with our subcultures, do you feel like that's influenced the way you move when you're moving between our subcultures?
My mentality is
Ukraine,
kind of
okay.
mixed because from the age of 13, I really started to learn English. From that, I really learned a lot. I really got the American mentality more. And basically, my mentality is mixed because in Ukraine, if we see a Black person, we call them the N-word. Mm-hmm. From our side, it's not offensive. We say it not from a offensive way, but some people can because you don't see a Black person there.
I can understand that because I went to
They say
a school
my
that was
nigga.
predominantly
Okay.
Black when I was growing up. And when I first saw the first white kid, I was like, what is that? You know what I'm saying? So, it was a white girl with
That's
red hair, and I
crazy.
was like, whoa, I've never seen this before. You know what I'm saying? So, I understand that, when a white person comes to a predominantly Black group, then you're going to try your best to adapt to our culture. To be
Yeah.
okay, hey, I get along with you. This is my way of, telling you, hey, I'm, extending an olive branch, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, not to sound triggered, but I just don't like the notion that you're becoming a Black person by pretending to be hood, or
No.
adopting a hood
That's
mentality.
not
all Black people are
all
hood. not
hood.
all Black
Yeah,
people
that's
are
crazy.
ghetto. I understand what you're trying to say, and I don't know if it's a language barrier, so I don't want to like come at you like you're saying.
That's what I would have said, man. It's like, yo, first of all, there's levels to be. There's different types of black people. You got niggas, those are the dudes that you mess with, and then you got black folks, outstanding citizens most of the time. Some of the times, not most of the time. Some of the times, because not everybody's an outstanding citizen, but you know, pretty good citizens. All right, they're almost done. Good.
Being something racist, but I just really am anti black people being defined as ghetto and hood because there's a lot of classy black people out there.
There's a lot of intelligent Afro Americans out there, and it really like depends on like where you grew up in.
Also, if you are hood and ghetto like me, you can also be all those things too.
White people also experience race-based prejudice.
Yes. Yeah.
Since you guys probably don't know, I have lived overseas. I've lived in Asian countries. In Japan, there are certain restaurants
pretty.
and stuff like that that you could walk into. You can see people dining in the restaurant, and they're gonna tell you they're closed.
But that's the thing. It's not really because you're white that they do stuff like that. They do stuff like that overseas, especially in Asian countries, because you're not Asian, not because you're white. It's because you're fucking foreign that they do stuff like that. I've heard a bunch of stuff like that, especially over there in Korea. They have Korean only bars. If you aren't Korean, you can't come in. Or if you don't look Korean, you cannot come in. So they'll do that to anybody if you don't look like them. So it's not really prejudice. That's just how they roll. That's just how they roll. At least in Asia. But you as a white person in any other country other than Asia, and probably if you're in any European country, probably any, maybe not. If you're in any European country, probably Spanish country, they not about to kick you out. That's really just an Asian thing.
Because you're white or you're American. So the idea that white people can't really experience racism kind of contradicts the very definition
I would
of
have
the word.
shut that shit down.
Because the definition of racism is prejudice based on one's skin color. White people do experience it, but to a different degree.
While I do think that our white brothers and sisters in Christ can experience racial-based prejudice,
Hey, think about it.
I don't want to overlook the nuance of that prejudice, because it's not necessarily rooted in anything systematic or anything that's going to actually have long-term effects, knock on wood, that are going to like debilitate a race or inhibit their chances or possibility of succeeding or being seen as better than POC.
I definitely think it's a non-issue, racism towards white people, especially specifically, I want to, like, in America. I don't think it's something that needs to be highlighted as an issue that is a constant threat to lives, day-to-day well-being, progress and success in life in general, because it's not something that's going to inhibit you, and you don't have to walk out your door and think, I'm about to be attacked, like people of color do every single day.
I do agree that white people haven't been put through centuries of hell like black people were, but prejudice towards white people 100% exists. Like whether it's in TV, if it's in movies, like if you watch predominantly black media, there's a lot of roasting towards white people that if it was the other way around, that would never be acceptable
Never
today.
could do
then
it,
you go on social media like TikTok and you look up white people are bad. You will see videos where they're attacking white people for things that their ancestors did 200 years ago. There are societal benefits at this point for being a person of color, and that those negatively affect white people. Like if you look at affirmative action, diversity quotas in the workplace, all these different things, they lower the bar for black people, but then increase the bar for white people. However, I think where some of the issue comes is because a lot of marginalized groups and people of color back in the day went through so much worse that it's easy for us to discredit the prejudice that white people now deal with today.
I think like on an individualistic level, like yeah, white people get hate all the time. But I think if you zoom out and you look at the big picture, it's a little bit different. And like talking about like YouTube having, you know, racist content for anyone out there, it's like I would have to go and seek that out versus it like coming to me. Versus
especially towards white males. It's you see a lot of people bashing white males. A lot. For what? Who knows? But a lot of people bash white males. So.
This is like on Twitter.
Against white people?
Yeah, I would have to like look for a video being like, oh, people who hate white people.
I agree.
Like versus like Twitter, I don't have to scroll very long before I see some person making some out-of-pocket comment about.
It's because that's what you
Regulation
were
being
looking
lifted
for.
so people can see that even more so.
Right.
Absolutely, that's 100% right. And even saying affirmative action, statistically and on paper, white people, white women were benefiting more from affirmative action in colleges than any other demographic. So I also don't think that's fair to say, but I definitely get what you mean. And again, I think the prejudice is still there though.
And I will say that black people do deal with prejudice. I think every demographic deals with prejudice. There are racist people everywhere. Like, I just don't think systemic racism is an issue anymore in today's society, but I do think that there are racist people out there.
I think that there's a really important.
I would have probably said then probably somewhere along the lines of, why are schools in POC areas, why are they so disproportionately funded by the government, or they're just disproportionately funded, which in return causes those POCs to just live shittier lives. Shittier lives, and then come out not as educated as their counterparts. Which is why, if I was president, of course, teachers are going to get a $10,000 to $20,000 raise. Public teachers from high school and below. Maybe I'll think about college, but definitely high school and below. She got a little bit more cake than I expected, and she's not bad looking too.
Distinction. Our language is constantly evolving, and you were talking about the definition of racism. Our societal definition has changed to include a systemic part of it. And I completely disagree with this idea that people of color don't have systemic things against them still. Because the fact that we still have the KKK, the fact that we still have these things, and they are in positions of power. As long as that exists, and as long as that's a part of our country.
That's what I'm talking about, my sister. My white sister.
I don't feel like you can honestly deny systemic racism against the black community, which is why prejudice is so different from racism. I don't think white people can experience racism.
It's the same thing. Prejudice is the same thing.
In this country, but we can experience prejudice based on the societal definitions we now use.
Being sexually unattracted to a race.
It's not racist. If you don't, there's a lot of races that specifically only date their race. It's okay. It's a preference. It's not racist. It's just not. Okay. It's a preference. Now, it becomes racist when you say, I don't want to date that person because there's this type of stereotype, or all of those guys or all of those women or this like type of stereotype, and you've never even really spoken to that other race, or you've never really, conversed or communicated with, well, same thing. Communicated, it's all the same thing. I said spoken, communicated. It's the same thing. You never had a conversation with that race, and you're saying this about them, and you won't, and you're not attracted to them in any way, shape, or form. For what reason?
Is racist.
But it's not racist.
I think where the line gets drawn is when if a
But I would say I would disagree with this.
white male was sitting there swiping and he's just like, I don't like black girls, they're all ugly. They have too big of lips. I think that's where
That's when it gets racist. When you start saying shit like that, that's racist. Or when you say, I don't fuck with a guy says a black guy says I don't fuck with snow bunnies because all snow bunnies got flat asses, or they races, or lips too thin, or something stupid. Not true. Not all white girls, not all snow bunnies got thin lips. Not all snow bunnies don't have ass. It's not true. Same thing with any other race. If you say that about Asian girls, women, if you say shit about black women or just guys in general, or guys any race. If yeah, all black guys are thugs, so I don't date black guys. Not true. Not true. All white guys are racist. Not true. I've met too many white guys that aren't racist. Cool as fuck. But some might be idiots, but cool.
The line gets drawn, but you can't really help what you're attracted to. Like, my fiance is Mexican, and it's like, I like him for who he is, not how he looks.
I think that we are conditioned to be attracted and to respond to people that we grow up and around with. So homogeneously, we grow up with people who look like us. So when you move into dating and things like that, statistically, you're going to be attracted to people that you grew up seeing, right? However, when you are discrediting a certain race for whatever reason based off their ethnicity, meaning everybody who did exist, is existing, and will exist from that race, you are not feeling anything. Q, I don't control your body or your thoughts, but on one hand, I'm like, let's maybe unpack that. Also, where's my camera? To all the girls that's putting this in their bios, that's none of our business. Stop doing that. Keep that to yourself. We don't want to
What the hell is going on, bro?
I think that, like, we're talking about conditioning and how we grew up, right? If you go to, like, South Africa, for instance, which within some of our lifetimes had apartheid, if you grow up in that, especially as a black person, where you're constantly being mistreated by every single white person, and you're conditioned to be like, white person, no thank you.
That's different. That's like kind of different. That's not really racist. That's just that's different.
I don't think that's racist.
I agree, and
That's like when my friend was like, I'm not gonna say it.
Obviously, I did not.
Oh no, that's like when my best friend was like, I don't date light-skinned guys, or I don't date white guys or Spanish guys. I mean, I understood she dates only black guys. Cool. But why don't you date? Why won't you give those other guys a chance? Her reason for light-skinned guys, crazy. It was crazy, but okay. I'm not gonna give you that. You got to give them a chance. And then same with her reasoning for, like, say, I think white folks. I think she just wants to date black guys, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But then I think it was my girl. I'm not gonna go there, man. I'm not gonna go there about her.
Grew up in South Africa with apartheid. Yeah. However, like I said, the nickname of my town was Clanty. Like, a lot of my interactions growing up were incredibly racist, and I'm dating a white guy. So I totally get what you mean. I don't want to discredit black people or anyone who's had those kind of situations, because it's not that they're not dating white people. It's definitely, it's more like they're cautious.
I think you used the perfect word earlier. Is it conditioned or?
I was thinking about it on terms of me being a black woman. I feel like it's a lot different when it is a black woman going into dating someone that is not of their race. I can tell you from my experience with dating Hispanic men, white, whatever, they've only seen Jerry Springer and Maury, so it's like they have a whole different idea of what a black woman is. Like, before my husband changed a lot, one of the comments made to me was he was afraid of me going to his house with braids in my hair, because then they would assume
that she's
that
ghetto.
I was a different kind of girl instead of looking at me for who I am.
I have
crazy.
been denied access because of my race.
Deny access from what? From maybe. I'm going to have to say I strongly disagree, because I tend to get along with just about anybody, so I can't really, I don't know. Deny access from what?
I can go anywhere, I can sit down anywhere, and I am not going to be denied because of how I look. And I would be ignorant to not admit that.
Okay, then I would say I would probably agree. I mean, disagree or agree. Probably right there. I don't know if I've ever put myself in those type of. Oh yes, there you go. I have been. Okay, I agree.
And I'm going to counter that with we are justifiably not let into spaces. And our whiteness takes away access to things like powwows. And there's an island in Hawaii that's only for natives or for like safe spaces for black communities or whatever else. We are justifiably denied access to safe
Wait,
space
hold on.
powwows.
Why
And there's an island in Hawaii
why do you
that's
scoot up
only for
closer to the
natives
black girl?
or for like safe spaces for black communities or whatever else. We are justifiably denied access because of our skin.
Period. We love the nuance.
The thing about Hawaii, though,
Yeah.
Hawaii is stolen land. I believe that they have every right to be able to say only we're allowed to go here because that
Justifiably.
was theirs. It was literally stolen land that was stolen by white people.
Yes. No, but that's why
Yeah.
it's justifiably, it's still denied access.
Yeah.
But it is justifiable, 100%. Don't
Yeah,
let me
it's
in.
denied access, but it's justifiable. But it's like in my own day-to-day life, I could go anywhere. I can sit down anywhere. I can go read a book in a library. I can go to Starbucks. People don't fear me because of how I look, and so they don't feel the need to be like, you can't be here.
But like in your day-to-day life, are you being denied access? Like, are you trying to go to that island that they
No.
won't let you? Okay.
Then I think
Yeah,
that's a really
it
good
doesn't matter.
question. Has it happened? I guess. Because, like,
would
are you
say
seeking
yeah.
those spaces then?
Not necessarily seeking
trying
them.
to-
If I am already aware that this is like, hey, this is for us, not for you. I'm not going to show up and be like, yeah, but like, I'm a
Can I
cool
come?
white person. But there are spaces that we are not allowed, and I think that's okay.
No, it is okay. But if you're not actively seeking to be part of those circles, you're
Then-
not being
then-
denied access
yeah.
to them.
I will agree with that.
Sure, and I can say that maybe those are not the best examples, but like I think especially because my social circles are predominantly people of color, there are definitely things where they're like where I've had them be like, this is not a conversation for you, and I'm like, okay, I have had those experiences.
That explains why I fuck with her, bro.
I'm okay with them.
I
I want
fuck
to
with
be
her.
clear. Like, I think there should be spaces that aren't for me, and that is okay. But they've existed and they've been in my life.
I agree. I would have probably told the girl, the white lady, strongly disagree. I would have probably told her, don't you remember when you said you were at the Japan place and you Japan or whatever, and you couldn't go in because you were white, or mainly because you're American, because they do that to all American, and because you aren't of their, ethnicity. That was a place that you were denied access. Not specifically because of your race, but you were denied access. Well, actually, yeah, because of your ethnicity and race, because you don't look like them. But you probably wouldn't be denied access to. You'd probably be denied access to a cookout. She can come.
I have just one really specific example. Otherwise, I feel like in general, I'm not denied access because of my race, just in my experience. But I had an ex whose stepfather was wildly racist, like Nazi memorabilia, like just insane individual. And I was never allowed over her house because of him. And the one time that I kind of snuck in, he was staring at me through the window. And I'll never forget that in my life, the way that man was staring at me through the window and then cursed out his kids for having me in the house. That man's now in prison for doing God knows what, but it's where he belongs.
I was looking for funding for my film, and most of them are for colored people, and I totally understand that. And there is like not many that I found that are for like everybody. My mind would be like, damn, I cannot do it. Like I cannot apply to it. But from the other side, I understand that the black community, like you guys need to get your movies out there.
If anything, I feel like I've been invited too much. I feel like I'm kind of like an undercover agent where I'm like because I talk a certain way or because I present myself a certain way, they assume like, oh, I could say this in front of you.
100%.
And I'm like, what'd you say?
Bruh. I gotta use the restroom. She's not lying. I've had a couple white friends. Hey, they're hella comfortable around me saying stuff, but I gotta check them and let them know. You can't really say this shit, bro, around other people, man. You definitely, it's like I might be okay with it. I'm not really okay with it. Or when I don't become okay with it, I just let them know, hey, I'm not really okay with that, man. You gotta shut that. But she's right. And then somebody said something over here that was right about certain things. Something, I think it might have been her. I gotta take a piss. Let's do this really quick. I'm almost done with this video. All right, what was that? Okay, yeah. She's right. There's some places that I'm allowed to go to, and some people are just more comfortable with talking to me about stuff that they probably wouldn't be comfortable saying to other folks. And then she's also right. There's places that we can't go, but you know, do you really want to go there? But that's right. He said something. That's right. He said something about not being able to go like a certain place and yeah. Same thing with me, man. My girlfriend's parents' house. They allowed me to come over for like I think 3, 4, 5 years, something like that, maybe 6 years. And we've been going out for about 8 years, about to be 8, maybe 9. It's been a long time. But yeah, it took them a long time for them to even allow me to come over, for them to even allow, to even recognize us dating. It took a while. But once, it happened. I mean, I've been to every function now, but, it took a while. So yeah, I agree.
Okay, I've never really been.
Now I'll say that too. I've been tokenized so many times.
I'm like, I don't want
we have
that.
to have you here. We need young black representation. And I'm like, yes, I'm gonna stay home.
Yeah.
I am proud of my race. 3, 2, 1.
I will go first, and I will stand 10 toes in.
I was just being.
I'm really in the middle. I'm really indifferent about this. I agree and disagree. I feel like you can't go wrong if you go here, but to be strongly one or the other, I think there's a huge problem, especially when you have majority white folks who just aren't proud of their race. You should be proud of your race, or if anything, I believe everybody should be here and disagree or agree. Because I don't know, it's tough to say because there's not a lot of things, but there's things that I just do not disagree. I do not agree with when it comes to black culture, just black people in general, like the hood shit or the crab mentality that we tend to have. I just severely disagree with it, and but I also agree with, and I also disagree with the way that black men and women kind of treat each other when it comes to relationships, because I know we kind of have I know black folks have a kind of a warped mentality when it comes to relationships. We tend to, but that's not really, I'm not gonna say that's not really our fault. I mean, you have to be willing to you have to want to break that curse. And if you don't break that curse, you're just gonna be in a perpetual cycle of the same BS that your parents went through. So, large amount of single households, and it just seems like that's another thing that I just hate about black people. But it's not just happening with black folks, it's now happening with a lot of other races now, at least in America. It's like the American government is trying to make sure that there's no families anymore, and they're trying to get rid of they're just trying to get a bunch of single households. But whatever. It's crazy. That's just some of the things that I just hate about it, and I hate gang culture. That's something that I just hate wholeheartedly. It's the worst type of culture black folks have is gang culture. It's like, I know you might not have anything, but because gang culture wasn't even initially, if you look up the backstory, it wasn't created to do what they're doing now. It was just created so KKK and police officers, mainly police officers, would just stop fucking with people in their neighborhoods. And then it changed to something totally different, totally off in the 80s and 70s when crack got introduced into the or I think it was the 80s when crack, or the 70s. So that's when that got introduced, and it really kind of effed up Black America households. White folks, I mean, other than the fact that you could be disappointed in white folks, how white folks are to other races, there's not really much that you should be disappointed in. It's like, yeah, y'all are pretty. They don't have the best relations with either themselves or other people, other races, but everybody deems them as the number one race. So they should.
Ironic to stand over there.
Okay, baby. I said, please no.
No,
I'm not here. I cried a little bit.
I'm
I
being
think
messy.
that, like, and
Yeah,
I'll just keep
I would
it specific
agree.
to my experience of what I know. As Black Americans, we're pretty much the top culture that gets replicated, referenced. People scoot in and scoot out because they want to seem cool
Yeah.
and interesting and stuff. And I think that that's so kind of us.
But that's the craziest thing, because everybody wants to be black. Everybody wants to act black. My bad, not be black, but everybody wants to act black, but they don't want to be black. So it's kind of crazy, and they really replicate nigga behavior. Black, white, everybody replicates nigga behavior, not black people behavior.
Us to like kind of like be
Which is him, which is just a regular person.
down
And her, too.
for so long and be kind of separated from our African roots, create names for ourselves, culture, language around our identities as Black Americans, and have that be a thing that's just reverberating across the globe. I think that's so cute, can never be replicated, can never be understated, and I love that about it.
That was kind of the start of my thought process too, just the basis of being torn down so adamantly, so regularly for hundreds of years in law even. It is insane that we are here today to even be on camera, to even be in a place with other white people. It is a beautiful thing that we have been able to flourish in such dirt, literal filth and grime that our ancestors had to go through, and even our grandparents had to go through. In my 8th grade yearbook I saw recently, it said, the South will rise again. And this was 2015. So this is such a day-to-day thing, and I am proud to be Black, and it's hard to say that. It was hard to say that as a kid, or else I could be called the N-word, I could be reprimanded, and I feel so blessed to even be able to think that.
Everybody needs to be proud of their race and stop this racist bullshit, because you could be green, red, black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter.
I agree with what you're saying, because my own personal belief is that at the basis of who we are is that we're all just people. We're not a skin tone. But because of those before me, I now have to fight back against the idea that all white people are racist. I remember being in 4th grade and learning about the Holocaust for the first time and saying, I don't want to be German anymore. Meanwhile, my mother's whole family is German. American history, you look at things like slavery, you look at things like Jim Crow laws, segregation. There is so much awful stuff that has happened and is still happening in closeted ways that I cannot be proud of the way that I look.
Yeah, for me, I am proud of who I am, who I grew up to be. I like who I am. But if I were to say I'm a proud white man, I don't even know what that means. There have been 0 racial hurdles in my life. Now, I'm a proud gay man because I've had to go through shit to get to where I am now. And you know, even to that point, so much of queer culture comes from Black culture. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to be proud of the things I've done, the people who I've touched, whose hearts I've opened up. I feel like it's beyond our race. I feel like what it is our experiences that make our light shine through. So that's what I'm
Shine
really
bright
proud
like
of,
a diamond.
Yeah. I think that there's a really big difference between being proud to be Black and being proud to be white. So being proud of your culture, beautiful thing. Like, be proud to be Ukrainian. I'm proud to be Slavic. The Black community is different, and the reason it's different is because their culture, specifically Black Americans, their culture was stripped away from them when they were brought over here. So then the culture became being Black American. The race became cultural.
I mixed that up.
So
Sorry
it's- no,
about the
it's-
hate.
I can see her saying that because, I mean, she for the, that's who she hangs around with is Black folks. So I can see her not being the proudest for her race, but still they shouldn't be strongly disagreeing with being proud of their race. They should disagree or agree, one or the other, but you shouldn't be strongly disagreeing because they've done a lot too. Even though they've taken a lot, they've done a lot too.
Yeah, but so I think that there's a really big difference between I am proud of my people are Slavic, versus I am proud of my race. It just gets convoluted because Black Americans, the race has become the culture because the culture was stripped away.
I also think oftentimes when you talk about white pride versus Black pride, oftentimes Black pride is rooted in love and perseverance of culture, customs, language, and things like that, and white pride is often rooted in Black hate. Latin hate, Asian hate. So I think that's culture, customs, language, and things like that. And white pride is often rooted in Black hate, Latin hate, Asian hate. So I think that's an interesting nuance to not overlook.
No, and I think that's such an important point. I think there's a difference between I'm proud and therefore I'm better versus I am proud of what we have overcome.
Yeah, and then the whole idea of white pride started with people who think the Confederate flag is a personality trait. So how can I be proud of that?
I'm not saying that this applies to any of you, but I meet a lot of white people, particularly white liberals, who will actively say that they're ashamed of being white, and that is wild to me. Because
Yeah,
how
that's
can you look
crazy.
at your past, and because yes, your race did terrible things in the past, but you shouldn't define yourself as that. If anything, you should look at that and reflect.
So do you think white people should be proud to be specifically white?
See, I think that's a really nuanced question when you're white, because I think you guys had the valid point of ethnicity is different, because white isn't a collective culture in the way that Black is, because Black people have been grouped together and have a similar experience. But white, Italian American, you should definitely be proud of being Italian American. You should be proud of being Slavic American. You should be proud of your lineage. But just to say, oh, I'm proud to be white, yeah, that has a weird connotation to it because it's not a collective culture. But what I really want to emphasize is that you should not be ashamed of being white in the way that a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Or maybe you should.
Okay.
You probably
At that point, it's on you.
Oh my God. All right. Proud of my race. I've been denied access because of my race. Being sexually attracted to other people. Okay, not a bad video. This wasn't a bad Jubilee video. Makes you think a little bit. I mean, I know I can't really have some of these. I know for sure that I can't have some of these conversations with certain people because most people, they just get all weird. They get all weird. But all right, not a bad video. All right. Okay. Let's see. It was a good video. Okay. All right, YouTube. It was a good video. I think Charmander got a little bored, but whatever. Guess I'll catch you guys later. Peace.